What is up, everybody? Today I'm bringing you guys a highly requested video, and that is a tier list ranking every single competitive BE memory dim for the Vital Bracelet BE. I get a ton of requests all the time. What BE memory should I buy? What order should I buy them in? What are the best dims in the game? So I'm going to be going over all of the dims. I'm going to be going over all of the abilities and explaining why I rank them where I rank them. And then also I'm going to be going over some of the best mons from every single dim. So if you're at all on the fence about buying any of these and you have like a very limited income and you basically can only maybe get a couple and you want to know the best to buy to compete in tournaments or just play the game at a very highly competitive level, this is going to be the video for you. And let me know if you guys want me to make this same tier list for maybe something like the Vital Hero side or maybe even some of the other competitive Vital Bracelet games. So we're going to start at the very front, which is the Imperial Dron dim. We're going to start at the oldest BE memory dims and rank our way up to the first. And I just want to remind you guys, this is the BE side. This is not the Vital Hero side. So we're not going to be ranking like the old Pulse Mon dim. We're not going to be ranking like the Hermit in the Jungle dim or the, Mad Black Roar dim. We're going to be ranking all the BE memory dims because these are the ones that have stats. These are the ones that have abilities. So this is just, a little refresher in that. So the Imperial Dron dim, this dim came bundled with the Gamma Mon dim, and it's the oldest dim that we actually have. Long story short, this was like a test dim for them to make sure how the BE memory stuff works. So it has really, really dated abilities. It's going to be able to raise your double attack on the SSR. It's going to give you an HP boost. We have a vaccine teammate, but only 15%, which is pretty insignificant with the power creep we have in nowadays game. It also has like the least level of evolutions. Basically, you have this main line that goes into Imperial Dron Dragon mode and Paladin mode, and then if you unlock your full adventure mode, you basically get added to a Wormamon line, which ends in fighter mode, which is honestly, I think, still not even as good as like the Imperial Mon Dragon mode, and because this is a free mon, like free typing here. And then I think the best mon in the dim is the Imperial Mon Paladin mode. So because this dim is so dated, it's kind of hard to rank where it should go. I will say that like the Imperial Mon Dragon mode and Paladin mode are really, really like high stat mons with good typing. Like the free typing is really, really good. These are always going to be viable. It's just the abilities aren't that great on these guys. If you're looking to use these sort of mons, I think they come on like the D3 like yellow dim, like white and yellow or something dim later, which we'll talk about. But where would I put them in the tier list? Let's see. I think I would probably put them we're not even going to use this because I think all of the dims are viable. We're just going to delete the D row. I'm going to put them in the C row because I think that like they're about as low as you can get, but they're not bad. Like these monsters are still viable if given the right teammates. It's just that like abilities like these are a little bit power crept. Most abilities are going to, boost your HP by 20 or 30%. Raise your character double attack damage by 12% used to be a good ability back before we got like crazy abilities that raises your teammates AP by like 35, 40% and stuff like that. So it's just that they're dated and the mons are still good. They still have good stat lines and good actual typings. It's just that they're a little bit dated. So we're gonna go into the 25th anniversary dim next. You can see again, raises own BP by 20% is a pretty decent ability as the SSR, but like honestly, it's not going to be that great. A lot of like raising your BP is not really that viable when a lot of the mons in this dim just don't really have that good stats. It's like almost the opposite of the Imperial Dron dim. And then like, whereas this one, these mons have good stats and good typings, but bad abilities. These guys have like kind of decent abilities. We're raising BP, it's decent. But not so great stats. Like Blitzcrank is probably the best mon on here. 5,300 on the AP is like, or on the HP is really low. Only 2,000 AP is a little bit low. Usually want to see like 2,100, 2,200. So I would say that, yeah, it's not that great. You also have like the, Kazuchi mon on this one. 6,500 BP is pretty nice. 5,000 BP, still a little bit low in my opinion. Still just a little bit low with a low 1950 attack. It's not that great. So if I were to rank this one somewhere as well, this is a 25th anniversary dim. Right over here. I'm going to put that up here. I'm going to put it in the C tier as well. And I don't think I'm going to be organizing these in their own tiers. I think that we're just going to have like A, B, like, S, A, B, C tier, right? So I think that's just kind of how we're going to go. Maybe I'll do it at the end. But yeah, I think these are both just kind of like decent dims. They have some fun mons that you don't really see all that often, but they're not really like competitive. They're more like, collector's item dims in my opinion. So going into the next one, we're going to take a look at the Gamma Mon dim. So this is the one that if you bought the Gamma Mon dim that came with the pink VV bracelet, this one also came with the Imperial Dron dim. I actually really like the Gamma Mon dim. It's very dated. It's just as old as the other ones, right? But it has an ability on Enhance that raises its own HP by 25%, which is pretty good on some of the mons. And then like Lifelink is also a very, very good ability, being able to lower your opponent's HP by 20% at the start of battle. If your own HP is lower, which a lot of the mons in this dim have low base HP. It's basically a sap life, so it's actually a good ability. It's a dated ability because the new sap life is just better. There's no condition to be met, but I do think that the model of the Mons on this dim are good. If we take a look at like the Gamma Mon dim over here, we'll see a lot of the Mons. So we have like a much bigger lines, you know, because it's a little bit newer game. It ends in Proximity Mon, and I don't really think this guy's that great. 6,500 BP is not great. 4,900 BP is not great, but if you're trying to use that lifelink, it is. 2,000 AP is not that great. I think the best Mon in this dim is probably Serious Mon. Like 5,300 HP is a little bit higher. 6,200 BP is nice. 1,900 AP is kind of weak. So looking down over here, 2,000, 52, 62. That's also really good at the end of adventure mode. You also have like cool Mons like Candramon, like Datamon with like this stat line is actually really, really nice, especially in like custom, you know, viewer or custom like player tournaments that we like do a lot. This is a very, very usable Mon. So I like this dim a lot. I actually think this dim is still usable, even though it's quite old. And I would actually put this one in the B tier. The Gamma Mon dim is going to be in the B tier, I think. If I were to rank it in the B tier, it's probably going to be near the end of the B tier, but it's definitely still a usable dim. I like the Mons on it. I think they have good typings, and I think that it's just, people sleep on it because it still has been power crept by a lot of different dims. Notably, like the Rampage of the Beast dim kind of power creeps it. The D3 white and yellow dim kind of power creeps it a little bit. Sorry, the white and red. White and red has a lot of like HP boosting ones, so it power creeps it a little bit. So does the Draconic Blaze dim, but it's still definitely viable. So going to the next one, we got the Angor Mon. So this is going to be like the Angor Mon and Jellymon dims. I think they're from Digimon Ghost game. Angor Mon, you can see these are not great abilities. These are not great abilities. Like your best ability, SSR, is going to lower damage from double attacks by 12%. This is a very, very dated ability. If you're comparing it back with the meta with like these or the other 3 dims that are around, it would still be good, right? Because double attacks are so important. Your other abilities can like raise your HP 15% if you have like the right teammate. Not very good. I think the Angor Mon is another one that's just like incredibly, incredibly dated. And I would put that in the C tier. If we take a look at some of the Mons on the Angor Mon dim, they are good Mons. I think like this one right here, definitely usable. 63, 53, 21. You can see a little bit of power creep already starting to happen. This is already like levels above, a couple hundred in every single stat better than a lot of the other Mons in the other dims. We take a look down over here. You have the adventure mode clear, like 5,067 BP, 1950, and then like this one is also viable. 64, 6,000, 2,000. That's a great stat line. Like the Mons have good stats. It's just the abilities really let this one down. So it's going to keep it in that C tier in my opinion. Going to the next one, we're going to have the Jellymon dim, which is very, very similar. This one is the foil to the Angor Mon dim. Instead of lowering double attack damage, it's going to raise your own double attack damage. This is the same ability that's on the Imperial Dron dim. And again, it's a pretty subpar ability. If we were to take a look at some of the Mons that are on the dim, Jellymon dim, I think that like it's really cool. Vikmon's one of my favorites. It's in this dim, has a good stat line, 56, 6,000, 21. It's a great stat line in my opinion. Really, really good stat line. We got Platinum Numa Mon, which is like another fun Mon, 63, 49, 18. Kind of weak, right? Kind of weak, but it's a very fun Mon to like troll people with. And then the Amphibian Mon, like 65, 52, 21. That's a great stat line. That's a great stat line. It's just the abilities are really going to be letting this one down. So again, we're going to be putting it into that C tier. You see, we have like a lot of like C tier dims, but note that like if I were to rank this, they wouldn't be like an F tier. They wouldn't be on the very bottom. All of these are definitely usable. It's just that some are a little bit more competitive than others. The power creep is definitely real when it comes to like the BE memory dims, and we're just going to start seeing that as we get newer and newer dims. So going to the next one, we have the Rampage of the Beast dims. This is like the phase 2 of like the dims release in my opinion. This is when most people kind of caught onto the dims. The ultra rare ability burst raises own HP by 20, AP by 25%. That's massive. You also have like a sap life that can lower their HP by 20%. You can lower the HP by 20%, 15 and 20 if you meet a condition. You can raise your own double attack damage, raise your own BP by 15%. These are all like good abilities. This is like a really, really good dim. This is the first like absolutely amazing dim. There's some great Mons in here too. If we check out the Rampage of the Beast dim, right? We have the end of it with Grace Nova Mon, which Grace Nova Mon is actually similar to Proximity Mon. It's not the best dim on here. BP is really low, but really high base HP, decently high attack too. So this is like a decent Mon. But I think the best Mon on this dim is going to be Burst Mode of Mirage Galgamon. Like 68, 58, 21. Look at that stat line. That is like crazy good, and it's a data. There are not that many good data Mons. And speaking of good data Mons and other Mons, let me know if you always want me to specifically rank like the best Mons in the game, or maybe the best data Mons, the best vaccines. Let me know if you guys want to see a tier list like that in the future. But yeah, this is one of like the best Mons in the game. It's a dim that comes in a bundle with a Draconic Rage dim, which is one of the like other really, really good dims in the game too. It has multiple good paths, like Apollo Mon's going to be good. Grace Nova Mon's going to be good. Things like even things like the Adventure Mode Clear Belphemon Rage Mode is viable, right? On certain teams, like it's a decent enough stat line. So I would actually put this dim. I think a lot of people would put this dim in S, but I think I'm going to be pretty liberal with my S's. I'm going to be pretty restrictive with my S's. I'm going to put it in the A tier, just because of how good Mirage Galgamon is as a Digimon. So I think that it's a good A tier dim, and just solid dim, easy to use, great abilities. Again, like the access to just raise on AP by 25%, that's nuts. And then like even the Sap Life and Lifelink are both viable abilities. Taking a look at the Draconic Blaze dim, this one can ultra rare ability, raise your ally character's HP by 20%. Like that's crazy good. You just put that on Examon, 20% boost. You also can use like Lifelink, which you give it a 25% or 30% boost if you use this one. It's weird that it's coded that way, but you can get a 30% boost if you meet the right condition. You also can lower damage received from double attacks by 10%. Remember this ability right here, which is like the third, like from the top ability, that was like almost as good as like the best ability that like Jellymon and Imperial Dron had. So you can see the power creep coming in real time over here. And I generally think that this is just an example of the power creep. And I do think this is a very, very good dim. A lot of good mons on here. If we take a look at the Draconic Blaze dim, it's going to end with Examon here. It's another Datamon. You can see the Datamons are still really, really good. Look at that stat line, 67, 59, 21. Absolutely amazing mon to have in the back. Great teammate to boost up a main tank's HP by 20%. Other really good mons here are things like Magnetic Kidmon's definitely still usable. 63, 58, 2000, just a solid stat line. And Shine Greymon Burst Mode, 6,000, 61, 21. This is the same basically as the Mirage Galgamon, but just on a different type. It's gonna be a vaccine version. I really, really like this guy. I think this is a very, very good mon. Even things like Just Mon are still viable, and even just like the regular form Shine Greymon. This is like the 4th or 5th best dim or best mon on this dim, and it's still better than like most of the things that were in like the older dims. It's crazy how that power creep works. I would put this dim in the same rank as the Rampage of the Beast. I would put this in the A tier, right? So that's just where I would put it. I think that the Rampage of the Beast dim is probably better than Draconic Blaze, but both are just absolutely amazing in my opinion. So we're going into the Holy Wing. These basically have a bunch of really good abilities too. Raises on BP by 30% if you get Excellent on the minigame. That's a great ability. And then there's a bunch of like conditional abilities, like if your opponent's main character has this, or if you have this, or other things like that. It's basically, this is the one you want. Raise your own BP by 30% if you get Excellent. So that's a decent ability. It's going to raise your defense a lot. If we check out the Holy Wing here, you can see it ends in right here. It ends in Shakamon, which is a really, really good mon. 67, 6150, 2100. Probably the best stat line we've seen so far, honestly. Really, really good mon. Great HP for having a massively high BP that goes even higher. Other mons that are good here, we're going to be able to see down here. The Metallic Dramon is definitely usable. Again, you're seeing that Datamon, really, really good stat line. All of these guys are actually kind of viable in their own rights. I still even like this guy, 61, 59, 19, that's still viable. 19's a little bit low in the attack, but it's still viable. And that's not even like an end mon for this thing. Shakamon is the good mon. I would put this one, honestly, I'm going to put this one in the B tier. I know it sounds like I was just talking it up. I do think that it's not necessarily at the level as the Rampage of the Beast and the Draconic Blaze dim. I still think it's like viable. I still think it's good. But I think that it's very limited in that mostly only Shakamon is the mon that you see play with it. And I think it's only really good on like very specific teams. It's like that's the one mon that you get from that dim, and that's just kind of how I see it. So going to the next one, Forest Guard, and this is the other one that comes bundled, I think, with the Holy Wings dim. This one, really good example of like high base stats, not great abilities. The best one here is going to be lowering your own double attack damage by 20%, which is the best double attack mitigation in the game. And there's some really, really high stat mons here, but there's no really way to increase your own offensive capabilities without relying on your teammate. Like all of our other abilities are very conditional. These ones aren't really that great. So the mons in this dim are going to be like Hercules Kabuterimon, all the bug stuff like that, and it's going to end with the Tyrant Kabuterimon. Look at this stat line, 68, 64, 2000, massive HP, massive BP. 2000 AP is definitely acceptable. and you're going to be able to cut your double attack damage. So if you lead with this and you pair it with like an Examon from like the Draconic Blaze Dim, and you give your 20% HP boost and you have all that reduced damage to double attacks, you kind of just outvalue your opponent. And so this is definitely a good dim as well, but I would say this is the only real mon that's good from it. Banco Lilymon and things like Rosemon Burst Mode are usable, but not to the same extent. They're mostly just used in like, you know, viewer created tournaments and stuff like that. So I would put this one, I almost want to put this one in the C tier because only Tyrant Carpetariumon's good, and it's only good if given really good other teammates. And I feel that is a cop-out, but I'm gonna put it in the B tier because like Tyrant Carpetariumon is that much better than I think a lot of the older dims. It's just that like the offensive capabilities just aren't there, and you know, the further we go into this list, you're gonna see a trend more towards like hyper aggressive abilities. And I think this is the last like real defensive dim that we got. Maybe there's one more. Let's check out the Lugon Mon dim. So the Lugon Mon dim came bundled with the bracelet, that blue bracelet, and that was all that it had. This is the start of the Digimon Seekers dims. All of these abilities up here are going to be good, right? So Synchro, right, the ultra ability says raises own AP by 30% if your ally character has the same attribute. So just 2 of the end Lugamons is like one of the best teams in the game. You're not going to go wrong. You're just going to roll everyone with massive like attack boost. You can also pair like raises ally character by 20% at the start of battle. If you want to pair this with that Tyrant Carpetariumon and have one of these guys in the back, that's definitely a viable team. Gives your Tyrant Carpetariumon a little bit more, you know, bite to its attacks. And then these other abilities are conditional, but a 33% boost is higher than all the other dims that have that same conditional requirement, right? So I think this is just probably the best dim in the game. If we take a look at some of the mons on this dim, going to the Lugamon dim over here, we're going to see that the mon that we're basically talking about here is right here. It's going to be Feral Lugamon. So 6,800, 5,500, 2,100. So really high base attack of like 100 or 50 higher than almost everything else. 5,500, which is great HP. 6,800, which is massive BP. And like we said, it has the best abilities of any dims we've seen so far. It also has the ability to Jogress with the Pulsemon dim to get an even better mon. 7,000, 6,100, 2,150. And you can keep the same abilities, right? So it's like the Pulsemon dim is the newest dim, so we just got access to this guy, but like, this dim is like cracked. All these guys are good. Even this one, the adventure mode unlocked, 56, 6,000. 6,000 is huge on the HP. 2,100 attack, that's massive, right? So I would actually say this is not a shocker. This is the best dim in the game. If you're trying to get into competitive, get this dim. This is the one that has what you need. You can just use 2 Lugamons, like the Fenrir Lugamons, and just use that. That's your team, and you're going to be able to beat like 90% of the players in the game. You're just going to roll them with a ton of damage, and it is absolutely cracked how strong that dim is. Best dim in the game. Get this one first. Borrow it from your friends. Just get a couple eggs and use this one. It's going to be the best. Even before you could Jogress it with the Pulsemon dim, it was like absolutely nuts. So going into the ability pools again, we're going to go and finish up the Digimon Seekers here. We see the Ryudamon dim. So the Ryudamon dim is one of my favorites. If we come out over here. So the Ryudamon dim is going to basically be ending with like Oryumon, which I like using in a lot of like draft league type tournaments and stuff like that. 66, 58, 19, it's not bad at all. But the thing most people get from this is a Jogress with the Dorumon dim to get Alphamon. And what they like to do is use the Ryudamon dim to be the Alphamon Jogress host, because they can both end. You can get Alphamon in both the Ryudamon and the Dorumon dims, and they're going to be ranked differently because the Ryudamon dim is going to be the aggressive one, and the Ryudamon dim is going to be the Ryudamon dim is going to be the aggressive one, and the Dorumon dim is going to be the defensive one. But look at that stat line: 66, 61, 21, 50. I think this is probably my favorite mon in the whole game, the Jogress version of Alphamon. And so if I were to look at the ability pools here, raise your own AP by 30% if own attack minigame score is excellent. So if you're getting good on those attacks and you're getting like over a 20 combo basically, you're going to be getting that excellent 30% attack boost. If we just take a look at the Dorumon dim right here, it's basically the same thing. You're going to be getting a 30% BP boost if you have like an allied character with the same attribute. You're going to get a 15% HP boost if you have like the correct teammate. 25% BP boost. It's all defensive abilities. So it's like more aggressive abilities here. Raising your AP by 35%, 30, all these things like that versus defensive ones. And we might as well just, while we're here, rank the Dorumon dim, kind of go over what comes in. This is where the Alphamon actually comes from. You have to complete the adventure mode in here to get the Alphamon. And then from there, if you Jogress it with the Oryumon, you're going to be able to get whichever Alphamon you like. Remember, the Alphamon here actually just has good stats. 63, 57, 21. That's better than like all the dims. in like the C class down here. That's like a Mon that's not even like the end game Mon is like better than almost everything down here. So the way that I would rank this one, I'd put the Ryudamon dim up in S tier. If I were to rank them in S tier, I'd definitely put it behind the Lugon Mon dim just because you have the aggressive abilities for the Alpha Mon. And then I would put the Doramon dim in the A tier. Just because like I still think defensive Alpha Mon is probably my favorite way to run it because I like to pair it with another like really bulky teammate and play like a control value game as opposed to just trying to roll people over. But I do think that it's still a very solid dim. I like it a lot, and it's definitely deserving to be in the A tier. So we have 3 dims left. We're going to be taking a look at the D3 white and yellow here. So this is basically Sap Life. This is basically what the Imperial Dron dim should have been, like big Sap Life. That's basically what you want to use this dim for if we take a look at a lot of the dims in here. So we see like Mon, there's Return of Imperial Dron Dragon Mode. We're going to see things like Blackboard Greymon too. I think it's really cool. Not that great stat line. I think the best Mon from this dim might actually be like Imperial Dron Dragon Mode is one of them because it's that free typing. If you want another good free Mon, a really good stat line Mon is Mon here. So 56, 6021 with that same Sap Life. So it's going to be very good. Free abilities are free typing are very nice because they don't have a weakness. So you can always leave with them safely. If I were to rank this dim somewhere, it's kind of hard to say. I'd probably put it in the B tier. I think it's an okay dim, but it's more of like a cheese dim. A lot of the fun Mons from like our draft league tournaments and stuff like that come from the D3 white and yellow dim. You can see the 2 Mons that I have. One of them locked in right now is from the D3 white and yellow dim, the Imperial Dron Dragon Mode on my screen on the right here. So I like the dim a lot. It has some fan favorite dims. This came with the release of the Digimon 02 new movie that came out last year. So I like it a lot, but honestly, there are better options in these higher, more aggressive dims. And the white and red is the foil to that. It's going to have a lot more like bird stuff, but raise your own HP by 30%. This is like a big HP dim. And this is basically what so this is like a version, it's funny. D3 white and yellow is what the Imperial Dron dim should have been, right? And the white and red is what the Gamma Mon dim should have been. Right? They basically just have like completely upgraded the abilities here. They're the same idea. They're built the same, using the same type of Mons, but just like way better ability boost to actually be able to hang with these, Lugon Mon and Digimon Seekers dims. So let's take a look at some of the Mons in that dim. D3 white and red. We're going to see things like, I have a Valkyrie on my team right now. Really good stat line, 6,059, 2050. But remember, the best ability this one has is giving you a 30% HP boost if you're pairing it with a Mon of the same attribute. So like 2 free Mons, and you have like 30% HP boost on a 1500. That's a lot. That's like a big boost to be able to almost outvalue those like hyper aggressive teams. You have things like Holy Dramon, really good Mon here, 6,000 HP. You're gonna be able to boost that up. You have things like Imperial Dramon, Paladin mode, 64, 55, 2200. One of my favorite Mons, one of the strongest Mons on that 2200 AP with really good abilities. You also have things like the Armageddon Mon, 67, 58, 2150, really good, and even the big Ukamon, which is really easy to get, 6,000, 21, 22. This is the easiest like high level Megamon to get in the game because all I have to do is clear Adventure mode. You go right to Ukamon. It goes straight from Ukamon to big Ukamon. Really easy to get. So if you're looking for something easy to get, this might be a dim pack to pick up because you get the D3 white and red and the white and yellow at the same time. So both these dims are really good. If I were to rank this one, I tend to like this one a little bit more. I think there's just better Mons. All of the Mons on this dim are good. Every one of these, maybe not the fighter mode. Fighter mode's a little bit outclassed by some things, right? It's maybe just a little bit outclassed. It's still a really good free Mon, but like, Paladin mode, Armageddon Mon, I think that's what this guy's called. Yeah, Armageddon Mon. All these guys are definitely viable and some of the best Mons in the game for their respective types with really good HP boosting abilities that can all be paired together. So I really like that a lot. And so I would probably rank this one in the A tier. I would rank it in the A tier. And yeah, I just like it a lot. So the last one we have is the Pulse Mon dim. I'm actually working my way through the Pulse Mon dim right now. I would actually say the abilities on the Pulse Mon dim are pretty subpar for it being our like last dim. But it raises your own HP by 35% if your HP is lower than your main character's HP. So it's a big life link. Like a 35% boost is kind of nice. You also just have a Sap Life of 15%. So it's a safe. It's weird. We got like crazy power creep. And for this last dim, they kind of scaled it back. And they said, we'll give you something just a little bit more balanced. 15% Sap Life, even though we've already had like abilities that do 20% Sap Life. We've already had abilities that do lifelink for 35% on the Draconic Blaze dim. So it's not that great. And then if we were to take a look at the Pulse Mon dim, a lot of the Mons are pretty lackluster, like the Kazuchi Mon, which is one of like the main Mons in the dim, 65, 5,000, 1950. 1950 is pretty weak, so it's pretty underwhelming. Scroll down here to the end of Adventure Mode, you have the Shoutmon, 58, 62, 21. That's a good ability, but we already had a stat line, not ability, but we already had good stat like that on Mirage Galgamon Burst Mode, which was like a couple years earlier on a much older dim. The good news is, though, you can also Jogress this into the Fenrir Lugon Mon, which is the best Mon in the game. And you can use it, as opposed to using all the ones from the Lugon Mon dim, you can use it with all of these Pulse Mon dims abilities. The problem is, though, raising your own HP by 35% if your HP is lower than theirs is hard when you have like a relatively high base HP to start out with at 2100. So it's kind of hard to still get that boost. Maybe like the value of using like Sap Life with it is okay, but honestly, like you would still just be better off with any of the abilities on the Lugon Mon dim. So it's a cool Mon, but I don't think it really benefits from any of these Pulse Mon abilities as opposed to any of the ones from the Lugon Mon dim. So where would I put this? I don't think that like just its existence in the game making the Lugon Mon dim even better is worth ranking it any higher. I'm going to put it in the B tier. And if you agree with me, let me know. If you think I'm like really off the mark with this Pulse Mon one, let me know. It's just that I think a lot of these abilities are very balanced compared to like a lot of the other ones that came out roughly around the same time were like a little bit too power crept. And so I think just like a balanced dim gets to go where all the balanced dims go. Remember, none of these dims are actually bad. If you were to use the Imperial Dron dim, the 25th anniversary dim, you can actually still beat people, still get wins. They're still viable. It's just that like these two dims, especially the Lugon Mon dim, power creep the game a little bit too much, I think. I will leave a link to this tier list in the description, and I would actually like to know what your tier lists look like. Do you guys agree with my tier list? Do you guys think I could rank something a little bit differently? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know if you guys have any other ideas for any tier lists you guys want to see me cover in the future. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out. I'll see you guys next time.